Welcome, everyone, to Build America, the construction industry podcast that is capturing and sharing the very heartbeat of construction people, projects, issues, and more. And I am your host, Kerry Smith Buck, and I'm also the owner of Construction News and Review magazine, or CNR magazine for short. We are in for a treat today. It's this session you're going to be learning from next. This episode is part of our series on supporting and equipping positive mental health and well-being on construction industry job sites. And I'm super excited for today's guest, who is Benjamin Jump, safety technician with Pike Construction Services in the greater Albany, New York metro area. And Benjamin is going to join us today with his true passion, which is smack dab in the middle of the wheelhouse of mental health and construction. And Benjamin, I'm so glad that you could join us today. Thank you for being part of Build America.
Yes, Kerry, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. This is obviously a very important topic, and I'm just absolutely thrilled to be asked to be a part of it. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And I know there's so many things that we could focus on. This will be one of a series of 8 different podcasts. Not sure on listeners where you are in the series, but this is definitely such a critical one, as they all are. But this one in particular, because Benjamin's going to learn us some really good stuff about debunking the stigma of mental health in construction. And before we got on the air, we were just talking about, Benjamin, I know, jump right in. The simple question when you show up at a job site and ask people, how's their mental health? What goes through their head and what comes out of their mouth when you ask them that?
It's interesting the reactions I get, because I always try to deal with the people out there on a personal level as well. So always asking about their weekends, and it doesn't have to be just job site related. How was the weekend? But then I have no problem getting into, as I'm ending the conversation, hey guys, how's your mental health? And they're like, what's that supposed to mean? No offense or anything. How is it? Did you do stuff for your mental health this weekend? How are things at home? Don't bring home stuff to work with you, vice versa. Keep it separate. Things like that. And after I've done it a few times, I've asked them once or twice, they're more apt to answer appropriately. Oh, mental health is good. That's why we have weekends. Had a great time, lots of family stuff. So once they start realizing that those type of things are for their mental health, it triggers something in them, I feel.
Sure. And that makes sense. And it's a culture really in construction that has been, I'm sure, a decades long evolution of being able to say the words mental health and realizing that's not a stigma. When it's hard to pinpoint, I had a few questions written down for you ahead of time, but in terms of a general time frame of the past, I don't know, 40 to 50 years, is there a decade where maybe like the 90s, the 2000s, yesterday, where you think the construction industry realized, gosh, we have got to get a grip on talking about this and figuring out what to do?
I really think it's been very recently, the last few years, maybe even we measure everything around COVID now. So I do think it was after COVID, that's when there was a lot of mental health topics came to the surface. And I think the construction industry or the workforce industry has tried to do things over the years. The team building, I think that's important for your mental health, the office get together, stuff like that. But if you're just doing it and not pointing out what it's good for or what else it's good for, rather than just job site camaraderie, I think that they were missing a little bit there. Now we're able to have these events and say that this is mental health related, or have events and give out some mental health swag or resources, stuff like that. I think that's where we're really seeing it a lot more now.
That makes a lot of sense. Again, before we came on the episode, I was telling you the weight that I felt interviewing safety directors about some of the very specific workforce tragedies, and just breaks your heart to hear them. And for me, it's relatively new for me to hear the stories underneath the tragic statistics. And I wondered if incidents themselves, the tragedy of them, bring about perhaps more of a proactive approach to safety. I know our colleague Brandon Anderson says he tries to make it to a job site before owners call him after there's been a tragedy. So how can we maybe learn from these stories and be in a proactive rather than a reactive mode?
Yeah, I think it's just being aware of what we're putting on the subs or our people as far as a schedule that can affect people a lot.
This is what I was wondering was when is obviously schedule to me must be negotiated early on when, say, a GC or construction manager is bidding a job. But at what point can we be, maybe we, meaning the construction community or the owners, can we be flexible, or can we not not set ourselves up for failure because we have an impossibly expedited schedule? Like, where, to me, that seems like that's the choke point of where it all starts, but I'm not sure what your thought is.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely can be. The schedule is obviously what drives it and what affects people. And I think that the higher ups, the executives, the project managers, they just have to realize that there needs to be flexibility within that. There's so much to the schedule as far as the people that are out there, the weather conditions, and a schedule is a goal to hit. And if you don't hit that goal and you have to move the timeline a little bit, that's a part of it. I think a lot of what the construction industry could do is after an injury takes place on site there, just to make sure that the individual or the individuals have a way back to the site after their hospital visits, after their physical therapy, if they need it, just that they have a way back. Because that's a lot of what happens with the injuries. People start to rely on the drugs or the painkillers they're getting, and accompanied with schedule and the time off and not making enough money, it all adds to the mental health aspect of it. So unfortunately, the tragedy that happened to me, which kind of pushed me into this, was a good friend and a neighbor took his own life. And he worked in the
Mm.
construction industry. So it all started to connect the dots for me. Project manager, I saw him on Saturday or Sunday, waved hello, told me about stuff he has coming up next week, went our separate ways. And then it was the following morning, his house was surrounded by ambulance and police cars. And that's what did it for me. The construction industry responding to this, I think they're right on schedule. Talking about schedules, I do think they're right on schedule with it. Obviously, our numbers are high as far as incidents in the construction industry related to suicide and mental health. But just like anything else, I refer it to spontaneous combustion. It's not a thing until it's a thing. It's not a problem
Mm.
until it's a problem. So I think construction is right on schedule with getting things moving with this.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And that's so tragic to me too. And not to make you dwell on it for too long, but I would assume very incorrectly, obviously, now that I learned that these tragedies would be at the job site. But there's a perfect example of maybe somebody who had multiple directions of stressors and then actually occurred in a non-work setting, because it
Yep.
you can't compartmentalize, I'm sure.
Yep. Yep. And a lot of it is us as males in the construction industry. We have access to means to do it, whether it be time alone, because men typically spend a lot of time alone, or access to firearms or other ways that it can be done. So that's one of the big things as well with men and mental health.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talking about Pike Construction Services, would you like to share at your employer? Sure this motivated you and your team members to implement some safety initiatives. What are you all doing at Pike that you think people might be able to tie into, learn from, and maybe even replicate?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking. So, first and foremost, we're working with New York State Department of Mental Health. They gave us we're part of a big grant that we applied for and everything. We're going through training. The name of the grant is Building Hope Through Action. We're doing some QPR training, question, persuade, refer. It's just a way to identify if your coworkers are maybe having an issue, or even somebody in your personal life, question them appropriately so that they want to speak with you, or they don't think they're being targeted. Persuade them to get some help, because there's only so much conversation that you can have with somebody. There's professionals out there that can push you in the right direction or persuade you in the right direction. And then just referring them to the right people. So that's one of the big things that we're doing. We've also started it at a little bit lower level with that as well. The boots on the ground guys, those are the people that we're worried about out there. We do mental health toolbox talks once a month that makes sense with the monthly mental health initiative, whatever it is. So that's been helping a lot. We've been bringing it up at our quarterly meetings as well, pushing people to use their vacation time appropriately, because that's what it's there for. Your vacation time, it's there to be used. You're not a hero if you roll over 2 weeks every year. You need to take care of yourself. So between that and just having conversations during weekly or monthly meetings, it's really opened up the conversation within Pike. And I feel as though we're making the right steps, because in one of our other offices, somebody got in touch with me because they had noticed somebody not acting the way they used to, and they were concerned. We took the right steps. As of right now, we took the right steps to get him some help, some people to talk to.
That's fantastic. And isn't just when you know a program's working, it's when coworkers are recognizing coworkers, because I bet you could have the best parameters for a safety program in the world, but if it was top down, it wouldn't be effective. So that's a great story.
Exactly. Yep.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit more. I know our listeners are all over the country. Good on the New York State Department of Mental Health that they had that grant. I wonder if other states, if New York's kind of on a cutting edge there, if other states are beginning to recognize that and support it on a statewide basis.
Yeah, I hope they are. It's obviously nationwide, it's an issue, so I'm sure they are.
That's great. If you are talking to people listening today that think, that they perhaps work a trades partner, a GC, a project manager, that they work on a physically safe job site, but possibly don't have the support for mental health that they need, what would be, I know it's a broad audience, but what would be some early baby steps to take to start to recognize mental health and support it within a company, construction company?
Yeah, for men especially, just speaking up. We have such a hard time speaking about our mental health. We'll tell you about anything physically, how you lost a finger, how, you broke a leg, where this scar came from, but it's those scars that are inside that we don't see. And we're just big emotional beasts. Like, we have the same emotions that everybody else does, but we don't know how to deal with them, and we've never been given the platform to how to deal with them. Anybody's having any issues on site there, just being able to speak up to your superiors or whoever you feel safe talking to, and then using the resources that are out there as well. 988, great resource. And I've been pushing mantherapy.org. It's just a great men's mental health resource, puts a little humor behind it. We don't like to talk about it, but if you put humor behind something, we'll say something about it. Mantherapy.org, it's called.
Okay.
There's a great little 18-point head inspection that they do there, and it gives resources as well. Very interesting. Just a neat website for us.
That's great. Is it just overall mental health, or is it specific to construction?
It's specific to men.
Okay, it's specific to men. That's
Yeah.
awesome. You're right, because it's a different language if you want to reach, and certainly want to reach women as well as they grow in the construction trades, but we are still seeing a majority of males on the job site. And I bet it is a different, men are from Mars. Did I get that right? Women are from
Absolutely.
Venus.
Yep.
Anyway, from different planets. But
Yep.
just knowing the language of how to reach men in crisis would be a completely different, maybe vernacular or style of
Sure.
communication.
Absolutely.
I bet it's encouraging to, I'm sure a lot of confidentiality goes with job sites too, because you don't want people to feel like, oh, Joe Schmo talked about John not seeming mentally healthy. There's probably a lot of that privacy related to it, I'm sure. But once that happens, I'm sure other people that noticed that worker in distress and didn't say anything, what's the ripple effect of that?
Hopefully it just causes other people to maybe realize, I've been getting pushed by the schedule as well. I need to talk about this with somebody. Hopefully it just ripples right on down and causes the next person to reach out if they're having issues.
Exactly. I didn't ask at the beginning of the conversation, but I wanted to know Pike Construction's service territory, or if you build more in just in the New York metro area, or if you're across the country. And I have a reason for that question.
So our main office is in Rochester, New York. Albany is a small hub. We also have a presence in central New York in Utica. We have a small office down in Florida as well. And as far as projects, we're nationwide as far as where we'll go. We have a large project in Minnesota right now. So we're all over the place.
Oh, awesome. What I was going to ask with that is I know in some of these interviews that I've been doing for mental health stories, construction safety directors talk about how all the stressors compound when a project's out of state or out of region. And there's a crew that has to be living in hotel rooms and working 12-hour shifts and not seeing their families. And I wondered if you could maybe speak to that, how all the risks inherent with mental health on local job sites where, God willing, workers go home to their families at the end of the day, how that must be compounded with the exhaustion and the isolation.
Yes, absolutely. That's so much a part of it. The isolation that men have because they're away for long hours, they're overnight by themselves a lot. That's definitely a huge part of it. The loneliness epidemic for men, especially. And we've done it to ourselves also. Because nobody pushed us into it. I think as men, we pushed ourselves into this quiet corner that we like.
Yeah, and just like you said, you can FaceTime your family maybe, but if you're just exhausted and you don't have, I could see where that would lead to for some to substance abuse too, just that
Yeah.
loneliness and isolation. And I think that's more of an epidemic as more construction companies don't define themselves by geographic boundaries. They are all over the country. They've got to be
Right.
sending specialized workers to those locations.
Yep. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for men's mental health is, or anybody's mental health, or why they make these ultimate final decisions is because they feel so lonely. It doesn't matter if you work with a great group of guys all day and you're out of town at night, hang out with them after hours, you have a drink or two, you go get dinner. You could have a great family relationship at home or while you're away, but it's just that feeling that you feel lonely, and it's no matter what around you or the relationships that you have, ultimately you just feel lonely and that there's nobody there for you. And that's why a lot of people make that ultimate final decision.
Wow. And it's not like a traveling salesperson, maybe that's, or someone like you or I going to a conference for a week and coming home. These are projects that could last, what, 12, 14, 15, 24 months,
Sure.
and workers are away for a long time.
Absolutely.
Wow. Just we would talk to you all day. This is fascinating stuff, but I guess we could maybe close with a few more resources if you have them to share about if somebody truly does feel isolated and maybe they don't feel comfortable telling someone at the job site. Are there any additional resources, maybe suicide hotline or something that a worker could, like you said, if they're in that quiet corner and they feel desperate, where they can reach out?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of union employees out there. The union halls or your locals, they have resources as well that you can reach out to. A lot of companies have your EAPs, that employee assistant programs that they can call. And don't be afraid to call 988 because it doesn't have to be just a mental health resource. If you're having issues with anything, they can direct you in the right way. And then I'll continue to push man therapy also.
That's awesome. I'll get in touch with them too. Can offer some of those resources on our website as well. And 988, just for those who might not be familiar, is the suicide prevention hotline.
The one thing I would like to say, and those mental health talks with this before, my friend that I lost, to feel as lonely as he did and to see the amount of people that were at his funeral. There are hundreds of people that would rather take a phone call from you than to attend your funeral. So if anybody is feeling a certain way, please reach out to the first person you think of because they would rather take a phone call from you than attend your services.
Wow. Said and very true. Benjamin, it's been such a privilege to have you on the Build America podcast and just to talk about a subject that's very difficult and personal ties for you as well. And we've been speaking with Benjamin Jump, safety technician with Pike Construction Services in the New York State area. And we've just been talking about debunking the stigma and saving more lives. And I really appreciate that you're willing to come on today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.